Welcome to Don Stacy's YouTube channel. For the last few days I've been reading from this novel in progress I've titled The Impressionist, about an up-and-coming comic, stand-up comic, Jack Bayfield. Now, Bayfield presently is in Pocatello, Idaho, about a 2.5-hour drive due south, or due north from Salt Lake City. And he's visiting one of his lady friends. He has 2 or 3 in various cities around the Northwest. And her name is Estella. Now, when Jack first met Estella, she was wearing a sleeveless yellow summer dress. Wally Fringe had established the itinerary for Jack's entertainment circuit, and Pocatello happened to be included. On his 3rd bi-monthly appearance there, he saw Estella for the first time when she approached him at the bar after his performance. She sat down next to him at the bar and began the conversation by saying, "I wanted to tell you, Mr. Jack, that your jokes are sort of funny, but I must tell you, your little stories are very long-winded, and everyone in the audience was sitting around waiting forever for the punchlines. Oh, and one more thing, your Mexican accent stinks." "Surely it can't be that bad," he said. The local reggae band had taken over for the rest of the night, and they had just launched into their 2nd number. "Let's dance. What do you say?" "Of course, let's dance." The sight of her on the dance floor, her sleeveless yellow dress billowing upward from just above her knees whenever she spun about for a single turn, had long been inscribed upon his memory. Soon they were dancing like a pair of 1950s rock and rollers. The rest of the crowd began to give them an extra bit of room, and soon Estella and Jack were dancing as though they had been dancing with each other on an exclusive basis for several months. Estella, he soon discovered, was originally from Colombia, by way of Guatemala, where she had acquired some very interesting looking furniture. The first thing Jack noticed when he stepped into her apartment, one half of a 2-story duplex, later that same night. Whenever he recalled that night he first met Estella, he fell once again into a dream composed of detailed, extensive moments they had shared that first time together. She seemed beautiful and exotic to him, with her deeply accented yet perfect English. To take his mind off Estella, he gazed out the seat window at the flowing, shifting, changing countryside, still looking uninhabited well out of Butte. At work, Bernie sometimes felt like an inflatable cipher, an elastic zero capable of filling up with some convivial gas. He had long since absorbed the principal Hollywood subdialect spoken by producers and film directors, with its vague references to a star-studded history and a kind of ever-present conditionality, as in, it ain't over till the fat lady sings. Hollywood's well-known profligacy contrasted sharply with, and at times flew in the face of, Bernie Younger's upbringing at the hands of a stern, frugal, forthright mother, whose own mother's people had come from Scotland. She had been practical-minded throughout her life and never tolerated disrespect, especially not from her own children. But of course, immediately outside of her home, she could be as congenial as any other woman, ready to gab for a bit at the drop of a hat. After a few youthful flings during his 20s, Bernie had grown more thoroughly cautious of women, particularly because of what he regarded upon occasion as their inexplicable remarks and behavior. But of this now rather submerged fear, a mere anxiety at present, he of course said nothing to Sheila. Why spoil a good thing? Yet on the general matter concerning Sheila, Bernie was hardly all that analytical. He had been first delighted, then thrilled to be with her. Her sudden renewed presence in his life had quickly restored something long dormant within him, a true and heartfelt love of life, of experience, of life itself. Only a few days after their first date together, the dinner at Sheila's apartment with her rather large collection of potted plants in every room, including the bathroom, the two of them went to see a film playing at one of the micro art theaters along the perimeter of the university district. The film had been Sheila's choice, who happened to be a big Fellini fan. This little theater house hosted stage plays on occasion. First-run shows penned by playwrights, actors/directors, often Seattle natives who had grown up in the city's progressive-minded milieu. The white clapboard building had been a Baptist church for a number of years until its membership of tithe payers had dropped well below the margin of rational sustainability. And its board of directors were sadly compelled to disband after placing the building upon the list of commercial properties for sale. Aided by a generous grant from the Seattle Arts Commission, an entrepreneur who had a highbrow love for the better films produced all over the world as well as stage plays, purchased the property. With only a minimal amount of remodeling and restoration, its art films and premieres by local talent had caught on with the theater-going public. After their showing of Fellini's Amicord, Sheila and Bernie strolled along the street to find a cafe where they could have a late evening meal. The first place they came to was an Italian restaurant which seemed to fit the bill perfectly, and they went inside. Bernie felt pleasantly revived with the excitement of the night in general, as well as walking along the neon-lit street arm in arm with a knockout like Sheila. At the same time, Sheila was quite happy being with Bernie, their conversations flowing easily like a stream through a wildflower-studded meadow. While waiting for their food to arrive, each of them taking occasional sips from their glasses of Chianti, Bernie was saying, Fellini always gave his audience these very involved and prolonged glimpses of life as sheer spectacle. Oh, I know. It's weird sometimes with all those people he found, all of them with their unique looks. He generates this sense of such energy and emotional feeling. You know what I'm saying? There it is. That's exactly it, Bernie said. A moment passed as they began to eat after the waitress had put their plates down on the table and departed. And then Sheila said, Bernie, Mr. Youngers, would you say that we seem to have a pretty good thing going here between us right now? Bernie, gazing into her beautiful, sparkling eyes for a moment, soon said, yes, I would. And he soon followed this by saying, I'd say my spirit used to be drooping for far too long. And then suddenly, through a sheer fluke, we meet up again. All this is, well, it's quite wonderful, really. Sheila gave him a gentle, appreciative smile as he said this, while she was thinking, he is such a sweet man. I could do far worse. November 9th, 2021. Dear Bernie, let me first say that I was very pleased to receive your gloomy letter the other day. The time just after the death of your parents was difficult for both of us, though I imagine for you that period was far harder to bear than it was for me. And remember, Bernie, during this time of shared grief, the two of us became friends. That was 11 years ago. I believe you'd recently turned 29. 31. You'd never actually seen me before prior to your mother's and father's funeral. So when we first met, when I first greeted you at the funeral service, I thought you had shown a very generous heart. After all, you knew who I'd been in your father's life. You knew that much. And of course, from faculty gatherings and meetings, I knew your mother as well. It took a few months, but she came to realize that Leo was having an affair. But because your father and I had been as discreet and secretive as possible, she didn't know, at least not immediately, who that woman was. I detested the necessity for our deceptions. I wish we could have proclaimed our love proudly to the entire town instead of having to sneak around, stealing away a few hours for ourselves now and again. But now I want to talk about present-day matters. What are you going to do for Thanksgiving? If you haven't made any other plans, you could drive up here and share in the traditional feast at my place. Bring along a guest if you like. You're a good-looking man, and I don't discount the possibility that you've managed to acquire a lady friend, as we say out here in the polite spoken West. Oh, my dear, you'll be the first to know. I'm seriously considering early retirement at the end of this academic year. Were I to do this, I wouldn't be too concerned about the matter of health insurance. So far, I've been spared all the travails many women begin to suffer in late middle age. My mother is still alive. She's 83 now. She's already got a home care provider helping her out for 2 hours each day throughout the week. But, as I predicted would happen, she has become more and more dependent upon this woman who shows up every day to clean her kitchen, cook her meals, and do her laundry. In retirement, I would be able to do all these things for her. I would ask her to come live with me, and I believe she would be reluctant not to accept. But more about this at another time. Please come here for Thanksgiving, Bernard. I would love to see you again, just not 6 or 7 months from now. Best wishes, Justine. On the day following his Boise appearance, where he stood before an appreciative audience who'd been amused and entertained by a special set of jokes he devised over the last 2 years with the tastes and habits of those very same long-residing Boise folk in mind, among which he'd included a few gentle jabs at the Mormon faith, Jack boarded the bus that would take him to Haley and Ketchum. After disembarking at a makeshift Trailways bus stop in the middle of downtown Haley, Jack carried his suitcase into the nearest bar, asked for a glass of Guinness, and inquired about motels within walking distance. The lady bartender gave him directions. Just down the street 2 blocks is a place you can stay. I hear it's pretty nice. Jack thanked her and chatted with her for a bit, and then he pushed off to find this motel. As he lugged his suitcase along Haley's main street, he noted a cafe where he'd decided to have a decent meal for a change later on, rather than a sandwich from a supermarket deli. Soon enough, he came upon the motel which the bartender had mentioned, paid for a room, having remarked just prior to this that he was a traveling entertainer on foot, so he wouldn't be able to supply a license plate number on the small check-in card the indifferent clerk had given him. He took a copy of the weekly Haley newspaper from a complimentary stack, thanked the clerk, and went to his room. By then it was nearly 4 o'clock. For the more sophisticated Haley Ketchum crowd, Jack decided to fall back on his tried and proven routine. As T-Bone had suggested, T-Bone's his agent, There might just be someone in the audience who could possibly spread the word about how funny a guy Jack Bayfield was. He relaxed for a while, drinking tea and watching a portion of a basketball game on the room's television. Then he phoned Sheila to tell her about his promising news. She was home working from her computer when he called. She paused in what she'd been doing, shut off the desktop PC monitor screen, and swept up her finger across the phone's surface, a brushing touch over the green phone icon. And she said, "Hello, Jack, how are you? How's the relentless road treating you?" "Doing great, Sheila, couldn't be better. Are you busy?" "Not so much. What's going on? You sound more upbeat than usual." "You bet I am. Tonight I got a gig in Ketchum of all places. Remember that guy I told you about, that agent T-Bone Jefferson?" "Yeah, vaguely." "Oh, sure. You said he came up and talked to you after you finished your bit at Roscoe's. That night you brought Bernie around." Yeah, that's when I talked with him. Well, say, you happen to run into good old Bernie lately?" "Actually, I have seen him again, Jack, twice. In fact, we saw a Fellini film just last night." "Oh? Sounds like you two are getting a bit cozy." "You could say that." "Whatever brought you both, sweetheart?" "That's just one of several things I've always liked about you, Jack. You're an understanding guy." "Look, Sheila, I better go. I gotta get warmed up for my act later tonight." "Knocking dead, Jack. I know you'll do fine. Maybe you'll even steal the show, who knows?" "Yeah, who knows. Take care, Sheila," he said with a slight hitch in his voice. "You too, Jack. Let me know how it turns out." "I'll do that, you bet. Bye now, Sheila." And as she was saying goodbye, the call ended. Jack had severed the connection.